And in 2020, right, in a time of frustration and desperation, we discovered Bitcoin, and we grasp on it as a way to benefit our shareholders and our employees and our customers. And it was first an exercise in frustration and desperation. It really was a do this, or suffer a painful death.
Yeah.
Right. And then it became, an exercise in transition and adventure. It's like, now that we've done it, what are we going to do next? Okay, someone will loan me $1 billion for free. Well, a year ago I was looking at winding up the company, and now I have a chance to actually buy $1 billion of Bitcoin for free. And then it was adventure and opportunity and challenge and response. It's like, and it was a journey, and it's a journey of discovery, because we went from being a software company to being a structured finance company, right? It's like, first we did senior credit or senior debt, and that was a weight around our neck. And then we did asset-backed financing, and that didn't work well. And then we did OTC, over-the-counter financing, and we learned the limitations of that. And then we did convertible debt. We learned the limitations of that. And as we moved through each iteration, we realized that there were some extraordinary technologies, and we're engineers. We put together about 6 components, right? One was a preferred equity, right? And most people had never used preferred equity to create credit. And the second was a public offering. We did one public offering in 1998 for like $48 million or something, 40-something million dollars.
Yep.
And then we did a $500 million, a $600 million, a billion, and a $2.5 billion, and a $700 million IPO
Basically this year, yeah.
Bam, 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 bam. $5 billion type public offerings. Okay, so we harnessed the IPO, and then we tacked on the at the market shelf registration. So we tacked another thing onto it. And then we borrowed everything we learned about the ETFs. We studied ETFs, and we watched the success of BlackRock. And we said, how do we create a credit instrument that has all the strengths of an ETF, that has the power of an ATM, that has the power of a publicly traded security, that has the flexibility of a preferred equity, that has the volatility and the performance of digital capital. We put all those together, and then we plugged that into digital rails. Like, we use this phrase, do you want to do an OTC deal, or do you want to do a public deal? Okay. The investment bankers will pitch it like those are equal.
Yeah.
And actually the bankers will tell you the OTC deal is easier. Let me tell you the difference. An OTC deal is one bank calls 37 of their friends into an alley, and we trade baseball cards.
Right.
And a public deal is, okay, we create a security that 200 million people can buy and sell every minute of the day, everywhere in the world. And you tell me, you think they're both equal ways to raise capital? Right there. I'm going to sell you a credit instrument. Do you want to trade it, in the back alley with like 12 possible buyers?
Right.
Or would you like to actually be able to post it and sell it to 200 million people in the world every second of the day? It's like, they're not equal, right? One of them is better than the other one. And so this was a journey of discovery. And at the end of the day, we had to understand credit instruments, and by the way, bank deposits are the worst. Margin debt is pretty bad.
Right.
Junk bonds are pretty bad. Convertible bonds, unsecured, less bad. Over the counter, not great. Preferred equity, this perpetual, better. Public preferred equity, better. Public preferred equity with the shelf registration, best. With a QSIP, no. You want a 5-letter ticker? No. 4-letter ticker. Word you can pronounce. IPO'd. By the way, in Europe, not quite as good. We took Stream Public in Europe. We're still trying to get it to trade properly for the retail a month later, right? You take it public, and we get these things strike on the NASDAQ within 5 days. Right? Not all capital markets are equal. Guess what? The U.S. capital market is better. How much better? A lot better. So as we actually move down this journey of discovery, we went from adventurous and opportunistic and strategic to eventually transformational, you know, and then we realized that we had actually created a better credit product. And I would say those first 4 years, the equity was the product. The credit was a tactic, right? We sell the bond to actually create performance in the equity.
Yeah, as an alternative to...
And that was fine for those 4 years because there was no other equity product. And I meet people in, UK today. They're like, hey, I bought your equity because I couldn't buy anything else with Bitcoin exposure in my retirement account, right?
Right.
So the equity is product. And then in 2025, we discovered digital credit. And that culminated in STRC, where we realized, what's the ideal product? I strip the delta, I strip the vol, I strip the duration.
Yeah.
I just hand people the yield. And if I hand people the yield in a tax-deferred dividend, how many different layers of innovation have I stacked on top of the credit world, right? Appreciating collateral, publicly tradable. By the way, it's illegal for a retail investor to buy an OTC instrument. Now, we talk about like being debanked and being blocked, right? And the entire digital assets revolution is about, an egalitarian, utilitarian movement to empower the masses. And, while we're empowering the masses, maybe empower the computer, right? Like, what if we had digital assets that AIs could trade 1 million times a second everywhere in the world without asking permission before they actually made the trade?
Yeah.
Right. And we kind of stepped through that, and we had to kind of get a PhD in capital markets and credit markets and securities markets, and then digital assets and digital capital. And that was a 5-year journey. But I would say at the end of the day, the philosophy underlying all this is, can you actually take all of these components that have been lying around for 30 years? ETFs have been around for 30 years. The most successful ETF plugged Bitcoin into it. Michael Milken will tell you he invented the ATM offering. We're the most successful issuer of equity via an ATM. And he invented the convertible bond market. We're the most successful issuer of convertible bonds. So we took all these ideas, plugged in digital capital, plugged in a public company in the U.S. capital markets with a bit of ambition. And then the truth of the matter is, even this last step, digital credit, it's not happening, Alex, unless we had digital intelligence. Right? Because what happened in 2025 was the AIs got smart. And people are like, oh, yeah, they're just kind of idiots, and they parrot back to you. Well, let me tell you, when you actually take the idiot and you parrot back and you do it 1 billion times and you loop it back on itself 10,000 times, you let it spend for 10 minutes, it's pretty smart. The world is full of people trying to optimize a very inefficient process that should not exist. And I would say 2025 was a very special year, and it is a special year because what you have is digital intelligence colliding with digital capital, colliding with digital assets, colliding with digital markets, and a lot of people saying, why is it that I can't move everything 24/7, 365 at the speed of light 1 million times an hour while I'm sleeping because my AI was doing it for me? And the answer is, any 16-year-old kid would get the fact that that's a better world.
Yeah.
It's only the 65-year-olds that got rich in a different world.
AI and the overlap with Bitcoin. I mean, I didn't think that the intersection of AI and Bitcoin would be helping to design digital credit, which is fascinating that it has been. What will be the longer term impact on digital capital and Bitcoin of AI? Will the robots use Bitcoin?
Look, it seems pretty clear we're moving toward a world where 1 billion robots do all the work and cars drive themselves, and there's 1 billion AIs in cyberspace doing all the thinking for us. And you sit down and you're a professor and you're like, I never could solve this cold fusion thing. And You know, if you wanted to solve cold fusion or create another nuclear reactor, and there'd be like, 97 dudes that spent their life on it, and they'd all tell you the reason it's not doable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like me asking, I got an army of lawyers, I got an army of bankers.
I'm sure you
I
do.
ask the lawyers and the bankers, is it possible to do this? They're like, we'll get back to you in a month. And after a month, they get back to you and say, well, we're not quite sure, but it's never been done before. It's like, and so
You're like, I'm aware of
if you're
that.
willing to wait a year, a year will go by and you won't get an answer, but you go to the AI and you say, well, I have this opinion. I want to do this and this and this way. And can you figure out if that's possible? You put it into deep research mode and you grind it 3 or 4 times. It's like, yeah, well, you ought to do this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
And what you've done is, and it's very important, right? You've taken the lawyer that's read everything that's ever been filed in securities law without any pride of authorship, without an economic motive, without, any prejudice or bias or any baggage, that doesn't mind if you call it stupid or you tell it that it's not working hard enough. And you've used that to get the first 1,000-man years of research done. And I'm of the opinion, now you think about the definition of a PhD, it's like someone capable of making a seminal contribution to the body of human knowledge. And there's 10 million of them, and you can't get a PhD without having written that dissertation. But the problem is by the time you get to that point, you've got so much baggage. So, you've got so much built up belief system, because human beings, we use heuristics and rules of thumb and bromides and,
Right.
Conventional wisdom in order to accelerate the human brain, because you just can't be the alpha zero, right? You can't consider the full state space of options, and you can't go and read 100,000 books every time someone asks you one question. So you have to kind of just fall back on, these simple bromides or simple conventional rules. And so you're taking shortcuts because of the limitations of one human brain. The AI doesn't have to take the shortcut. The AI can say, well, actually, I did read the 100,000 books, and I actually found an example. And so I think we're moving to a new world, and the new world is, 1 billion people do the work of a PhD, and 1 billion people solve 1 billion problems, and they have the equivalent of 10,000 hyper PhDs that think 1 million times faster, that work 24/7, 365. And what happens when you actually tell the AIs to grind the AIs, and you unleash 1 million AIs to tell 1 million AIs to do it? And, the real evil genius guys are like, well, I create like 5 AIs in a committee. I make them fight with each other, and I make them take the opposite points of it until, they've ground through the thing. And I'm like, oh, that's really wicked what you're doing there. And so I think we're in a whole brave new world, and there's two types of thinkers, 2 types of systems, 2 types of corporations. There's the person that says, oh, digital assets and digital intelligence, I can do everything 1 million times better, 1 million times faster, 1 million times stronger, and the world's going to be 1 million times better.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's and I'm going to do it with intelligence, digital assets and digital intelligence. And then there's the other side. They're like, we don't want the AI to give you the answer. We don't like the answer. Please don't use it. It might be a security leak. I've literally met people where they're like, my legal department won't let me use the AI to answer this question. Yeah. Just like those teachers are like, we don't want the students using the AI. Are you kidding me?
So they haven't figured out how to let them use it yet.
We're bragging. Well, the kids used the AI, and the problem was the AI gave them an answer. So we had to train the AI to not give the kids the answer. It's like, oh, yeah, well, the kid got a jackhammer and jackhammered through the mountain, but that was a problem because we really wanted them to bang away on a rubber mallet like we did. Like, there's literally people that are afraid the technology might work too well, and we just have to dumb it down, right? Make it woke, make it stupid. What if the 12-year-old actually got the answer? Well, we really want them to like take the shovel and dig the hole because that's how we used to dig holes with shovels. It's like,
Yeah.
the kid figured out how to hijack 1 million robots to like build a new city, and we live happily ever after. And then the kid cured cancer and 3,700 other diseases, but that's cheating because we really wanted them to like work slower. It's like,
Yeah.
there are going to be governments that want to slow it down. It's like you see it right now in authoritarian cultures. We don't want people to move money too fast.
Yeah.
We don't.
Right.
We don't want someone to accomplish things on Saturday afternoon. When the Puritans showed up in Boston, if they caught you working on Sunday, they whipped you.
Yeah.
It's like it's a religious thing sometimes, or it's a political thing.
So interesting.
And so but just like, the Japanese didn't want explosives to corrupt their military system. And the Chinese, you had a centralized emperor in China, and he actually kept modern munitions technology out of China. That worked until the British warships showed up and sailed up the river, and then that didn't work anymore,
Right.